Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MPR. As always, my name is Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey.
This week we've been focusing previously on Raw and SmackDown, so it is time to turn our attention a little bit over to NXT because it has been silently kicking off down there. These guys have been going hard, and it is time to give them a little bit of time in the spotlight. At the moment, they are attempting to crown a new interim NXT Cruiserweight Champion due to all of the pandemic stuff at the moment. Current champion is stuck over in the UK, and that means we got 8 guys fighting it out in 2 blocks to see who will face off in the finals and then be crowned the interim NXT Cruiserweight Champion.
I've still got hopes for Drake Maverick.
I can see the hopes. The guy has been killing it. He finally picked up a win. He defeated Tony Nese in the second round. So he's 1-1. At the moment it's hard to tell, I guess, what win-loss record's going to get you through, but I assume 2-1, unless people go 3-0, should at least get you in the talks about who's going to go through from each group.
Yeah, it should. I honestly, I expect there to be a tie. I think you said there was no way it would be happening.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think he does beat Kushida next week or
Ooh.
next time.
Ooh.
And Kushida will be 2-1. He'll be 2-1, and they'll have to fight again to break a tie for their block.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see it. I could see them scrambling, if one of the groups isn't tied and one of the groups is tied. I could see them scrambling around wondering, man, what do we do? What's the tiebreak? We didn't plan for this, and maybe they come down that it's head-to-head is the tiebreak, in which case Drake Maverick would have beaten Kushida and advances on head-to-head. I would definitely be interested. That's probably, if I'm looking at what's left in this block, you got Drake Maverick, you got Tony Nese, Jake Atlas, and Kushida. Drake versus Kushida is the number 1 match left in this block that I want to see. That's the one. Because Maverick, exactly like he said he was going to, in his Twitter promo when he was let go, he's putting everything in there. He is going hard out. And as, he's cutting all these promos afterwards about, trying to earn a spot back on the roster and trying to get a new contract out of all of this. Whether, the backstage, the politics, all that stuff to the side, the him being released all to the side, you are feeling that in the match, between the ropes, between the bells. You're feeling like this is a man who wants to earn a contract. And he's been putting on some damn good matches.
Yeah, and I think WWE is noticing the support for him, which has really taken off, especially since the release.
Mm-hmm.
So I really do think, not only do I think that he was eventually going to be signed back anyway, I think they'll sign him back sooner than most people probably expected. And who knows, he might actually win the dang thing and win the championship.
Yeah. I know that,
and force the issue.
Yeah, I know that on Twitter during all of this and the wins, it seems like EC3 is sitting there constantly doing Twitter videos about convincing Rockstar Spud to not be so fighting for a WWE contract. And it's like a weird contrast into his like dark and gloomy. But it's working well for EC3, and I guess when you can't do anything else because there's no other shows happening, it's fine. But that is the story of this Cruiserweight tournament. It is the story of Drake Maverick trying to fight for his contract with the obvious favourite of Kushida sitting up the top there. Now, if we're moving on to other things that have happened because of the pandemic, obviously the pandemic has grounded the Cruiserweight champion. It has also grounded one half of the NXT Tag Team Champions. The team, or the Broserweights, the team of Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne. That's meant that WWE has had to shake things up a little bit, and they've ended up pairing Matt Riddle with Timothy Thatcher. Now Thatcher is playing a great straight man to Riddle's high man, and it's a really weird dynamic. You know, you got Timothy trying or refusing to wear a belt because he doesn't want to disrespect Pete because it's Pete's belt, to them participating in a version of the Newlyweds game, to them being jumped by Imperium and Thatcher being able to like stop both of them. It's a weird one.
Yeah. This is all stuff that sounds like it would have been done with Pete if he was available. I kind of actually want them to still do the Newlywed Game thing with when Pete comes back, because that'll be hilarious. The stuff they were doing was I was dying laughing most of the time from it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's just because Pete was so serious that this is just such a stark difference, and I think he's just having a blast with it too.
Yeah. It's like if you take, and this is going to be a weird sentence to say, if you take Pete Dunne's seriousness and you ratchet it up to 11, that's what you get with Timothy Thatcher. The guy puts a capital S on the word serious. And it's really, both of them play so well off Matt Riddle that it works out. And when it's all said and done, I don't know if Thatcher and Riddle will have lost the belts or whether they'll still be holding them or whatever. It'll be interesting to see what happens when Pete comes back. Whether you get your Pete Thatcher, whether Pete comes back with Riddle. We don't know what the landscape's going to be like, and we don't know when that's going to be either.
No.
But at the moment...
It's definitely a couple months off still, at the very least.
Yeah. But really, you lose Pete, but you get a gain. Because TikTok... I think it's Doomsday is coming. I'm probably going to get the tagline wrong. Killer Cross and Scarlet are going to be debuting next week by the looks.
Yeah, what did they decide to call Killer Cross in WWE?
He has the quick Google.
Karrion Cross, and there's a reason for it. I believe I forget what it is, but it has something to do. The name actually has a reason behind it, not just because they wanted. Obviously, they wanted to have a name that they could copyright,
and not the name Killer.
Yeah. But I forget what Karrion means, but it's definitely something dark and like satanic-y.
Okay. A few different words with a background that matches Cross' persona. First inspiration for the name comes from carrion, meaning decaying flesh of a dead animal. Here we go.
Yeah,
it works. And I don't think we know what name Scarlet will be coming out to at the moment. But it looks like they will definitely be debuting as a couple. Scary Man and Hot Partner will be coming out, and they've already murdered Ciampa. Some would say killed him, or carrioned him. But hey, I guess where are they going to target first, do you think?
Well, let's see here. Next week's show is supposed to be really, really big. I'd say if you're going to make an impact after the NXT Championship match.
Okay.
And by the way, I think they were just going to call Scarlet.
That makes sense. Yeah, that was my guess. I've been referring to her as Scarlet.
But yeah, have Velveteen come out on top and actually win the championship next week.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, whatever music they've decided to play for Karrion Kross plays.
Yeah.
And he comes out and just levels the weekend champion because the champion just went through like a 30-minute match.
It's classic heel debut and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of what I had an idea of. It is just a classic thing. It's you have somebody debuting that's going to be a heel, obviously. You have somebody whose story is culminating with a championship match here, with the odds being highly favorable in him winning the championship. the odds are the stars are aligned for this debut to be memorable, and also kind of cut down on or at least give us a replacement for Cole, so Cole can move on to other things.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with one specific word there, and that was memorable. It feels like the way they've done this, with the vignettes, the way they've done it with taking out Ciampa, is that they want this to be memorable. They want Cross and Scarlett to be stars. They want them to come out and have an impact. And then if you're looking at the NXT roster and you're going, who really can they come out and take? You know, there's very few targets. And knowing what's booked for next week, really, if you're looking at male faces, it's Dream or Dijakovic.
Especially since it didn't happen this week with Keith Lee successfully defending his title.
Yeah, so Dream definitely makes the most sense out of both of those. If you want it to be big and you want it to be special, I wouldn't be surprised if they did a fake out earlier in the show, because they have made it obvious that the debut's coming. So, you know, if you don't show up at all on the show, we're going to expect you to show up after the main event. So I could see them potentially coming out in the middle of the show, making it seem like that's going to be the big debut, or that was what they were saying when they were saying they're going to be here next week, and then making the bigger impact later. I could see that happening.
Well, if there was a crowd, you could just stick them in the crowd for a segment. And
you could still do that. It'd just be funny.
Yeah. It'd be no more different than Gronk and Mojo in a balcony.
Yeah.
During WrestleMania. Yeah, it's just, I could see maybe some, like, the lights go out at some point during the show and somebody disappears.
Mm-hmm.
I think Finn Balor's attack will be traced back to Karrion Kross as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think at some point somebody might disappear, and that'd be like the thought of that was where the debut was going to be, and then make instead of the main event being Dream versus Cole, make it the middle part of the show,
and
have Charlotte versus Shirai as the main event.
Yeah,
and then you could still do the debut there at the middle of the show. You get the moment with Dream winning the title. Then you get the insane debut that takes that half of the fan base. And then you can have Charlotte beat Shirai and end the show. And people won't really care that much about it because they already got what they got with Dream winning the championship and Killer Kross coming in.
Yeah, we've been talking about it, so we might as well talk about it quickly before the music we play here. But Adam Cole versus Velveteen Dream is finally booked for the NXT Championship next week. We've been talking about it for months now. The breakdown of the Undisputed Era losing their belts one by one by one. Is Cole's time up?
It's almost gotta be. Unless they pull a screw job on Dream, and instead of the debut happening after the match, it happens during the match and costs Dream the match. But that doesn't make as much sense.
Yeah, it's not as good. I think Kross is going main event quickly, so being in a feud for the championship against the champion is a good start off. And then Adam Cole will continue to argue with his Undisputed Era mates, presumably leading to a split up in the near future. Well, we're roughly halfway through the show. That means it is time to play our entrance theme of the week. This week, it has been selected to be your brand new SmackDown Tag Team Champions, The New Day. And you're back with the Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MPR. I'm Grady, he's Josh, and we talked about the NXT Championship match next week. Before the show, now it is time to talk about the NXT Women's Championship match that is also happening next week. Io Shirai climbed the ladder and claimed the number one contendership for the Women's Championship, and Charlotte Flair is coming down to defend it.
This should be good. I really think that they're going to give these ladies a long time to really let loose.
Mm-hmm.
That's also why I think it'll be the main event, so that there won't be any restrictions on the match.
Gotcha.
I think while I did say that earlier that Charlotte would win the match, and I believe that, I think that it's going to be a really close one, though. I think there's going to be several times when you're watching the match and you're thinking, "Oh my goodness, Io could actually win." I think that's the biggest thing I think about this whole run is that it's going to be elevating the ladies in NXT, because if you're competing and standing toe to toe with arguably the best, actually, there's no arguably, she is the best. Regardless of what redheaded ladies who call themselves the man think, Charlotte Flair is the best woman in the world wrestling right now. And so if you have these ladies in NXT taking her to her limit, that only makes them look better by comparison. And thus puts a shine on them, so that the division is going to be that much more stronger once somebody actually does take the title off her.
She's sort of likening it, I guess, to the John Cena US Open Challenge kind of stuff, where you had a few guys, I want to say it was like a Neville match, where you really thought maybe he'd do it, maybe he'd win. But in the end, it was just bringing a lot of people up to John Cena's level.
Yeah, that's what that whole thing was it was not only to inject life into the US Championship, which was badly needed at the time, but it was also, let's have the guy we've had for so long, elevate these new guys, like the NXT call-ups, as well as some of these mid-card guys that we haven't really done much with, but have potential, like the Nevilles, and then Kevin Owens comes in and becomes a megastar off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole thing. When you have somebody of that level in that position, anybody they work with is going to be instantly elevated. It's not a burial, regardless of what the internet wants to believe, because the fans, when they're watching it, they will take notice of the person facing the megastar, in which they might not have otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we're both in agreement that we will continue to have the same NXT Women's Champion at the end of NXT next week. But something that we can chat about is that we've had a new, or an old, but new style or new flavor of power couple starting to emerge on NXT. Ever since the final Beat match, Candice LeRae has completely turned to the dark side to join up with her husband. The two of them now being the ultimate heel couple. They're doing some amazing promos from home, cutting in for videos. And the Manic Pixie has shown that she has a new finisher, which is pretty darn brutal.
Who knew she had it in her? Although I would have probably said the same thing about Johnny Gargano before his heel turn last year.
Yeah, it's arguably two people that you would have called forever faces, both turning heel and doing amazing at it.
Yeah, it's Sami Zayn in NXT. Sami Zayn, I thought, was going to be a Rey Mysterio type.
Yeah.
Where it was just, you're always going to expect them to be the good guy, no matter what. And I am ignoring the little segment in his career, in Ray's career, where he was a heel in WCW because WCW was an idiot at that point in time.
But yeah, it's a real easy way to, and I'm gonna put this down to the finisher, right? A real easy way to convince people you are a bad butt heel is to just grab someone by the arms, stretch them backwards, put a foot on the back of their neck, and then let go of their arms and stomp their face into the mat. Okay? There's no good person that does that. It looks brutal. The stretch looks brutal, and then the stomp looks brutal. And a returning Casey Catanzaro sold it like absolute death. And I think that one stomp, if anybody believed that she couldn't play a heel, that one stomp sold it.
I don't know.
You're still not there for it?
Well, no, I'm talking about the move.
Alright.
I believe the heel turn. I believe in that. That move is actually one of Daniel Bryan's repertoires.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that unheard of for somebody who is not on the dark side to use a move like that. It's just not as just doesn't do it as violently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but think of Casey.
Yeah, we need to find a burial plot for her. And that's not a burial joke for the internet. It's just I think she got killed. So we need to bury her.
Yeah, I'm quite a fan of Casey. I was like, oh, yay, because I was following along on Twitter. I didn't know who she was facing at the time. There was GIFs posted, and I was like, yay, she's returning. That's awesome. And then the very next GIF I see is her face getting stomped into the mat and just laying there, and I'm like, oh, bye. Fun knowing you. But yeah, I look forward to more from her when she recovers from her death. They throw her into the cane pit or something and bring her back. But we also have a few other new faces on NXT just as we're running out of time to drop in a mention for. And the first one I want to do that to is Dexter Loomis. This guy looks creepy. I believe it is the former Sam Shaw. They used him originally in that sort of new NXT Upstart tournament. But now he's really coming into his own as a single star, starting to make an impact and working his way up the ranks.
Oh boy. It's kind of a pun when you consider that the character they've given him is pretty much what they Impact gave him.
Yeah.
This really creepy, stalkery type character.
Yeah, it very much is. Like, Dexter Loomis is Sam Shaw. You can tell that. But I think that's because he did so well as the stalker Sam Shaw kind of guy. That is like, you stick with what you know. The guy's good at it. There's no reason to distract from it. But if a character comes out and a character wrestles, and then he looks into the camera, like either in his entrance or after he won, and you're sitting there and you get goosebumps, or you get the heebie-jeebies, you get the hair pricking up, the character's doing something right. He's getting a reaction.
Yeah. And that's half the battle. A reaction is more important than a million flips and a million spots and stuff. Because without fans reacting, it means nothing.
Mm-hmm. I would love to see what Loomis does with a crowd. I know you can say this about a lot of things that are happening at the moment, but I feel like this character with a crowd and knowing how he's going to interact with fans like that, that'll be, I think, either the deal maker or the deal breaker. But I have no doubt that he can pull it off. He did well previously, so I expect him to do well again. And then lastly, we have a situation, it was 2 to 3 years ago when Samoa Joe told William Regal to get better security in his parking lot. And William Regal, I don't know if he's got a tight budget at the moment with the pandemic stuff or what, but man, he did never get that better security. Because we got a van full of luchadors kidnapping people in that parking lot, okay? And I don't know why people keep walking into it. You'd think they'd be on high alert right now, and when a giant black SUV pulls up and some luchadors jump out of it, that they fight back, which Phantasmo did, you wouldn't get kidnapped, but I'm pretty sure they've already got at least 2 victims.
Now the question is who's behind it? Who's sending these random luchadors to take people alive? I mean, and why the specific targets that they've already taken?
Yeah, it's a question that I don't have an answer for. I thought it was Phantasmo. Maybe they're trying to throw us off the scent by having them attack him and fail to kidnap him this week, but I don't know. I just don't know. Maybe it'll be completely counterintuitive and it's not actually going to be a masked wrestler at all. He just hired a bunch of luchadors.
Maybe.
All I know is that we'll find out in the coming weeks. I'm interested. You've got me. But that is all the time we have for this week. It's been great talking to you. You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling radio, Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling radio, and we'll see you next week with a preview of the Money in the Bank pay-per-view.